You just sit there and go,
yeah, well, not only that, how about the fact that this guy was running this for decades? He was doing this for decades to who knows how many people, and everybody was scared to talk about it because he'd have them killed. Yeah, it's really wild, man. I think there's so many powerful people that are on those lists. There's so many powerful people that went and partied. Air quotes, partied. And how many of them went to the Diddy parties? Have you been paying attention to the trial?
Been popping up in this Diddy.
This keeps coming up in the Diddy conversation for one clear reason. People keep saying he was the voice behind certain moves, the presence behind the scenes, even when nobody wanted to openly admit it. And it's not about loyalty, it's not about friendship, and it's definitely not about the industry sticking together like a team. What people are really reacting to is fear. Because when legal pressure starts knocking, loud rooms don't get louder, they get real quiet.
Like, were their decisions colored by certain things, and who got the benefit of the doubt, you know, in that courtroom?
Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Sean Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. There's no one else being vocal. So you would look at it and just say, because that mind your business, or let me not say nothing about nothing, or those things, it would allow the entire culture to register.
When powerful names all go silent at the same exact time, that silence starts feeling calculated, not accidental. That's when people stop calling it coincidence and start calling it strategy. And the deeper point people can't stop circling back to is simple. Silence isn't always support. Sometimes silence is self-preservation. That's where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because if too many major names are connected to the same circles, the same private rooms, the same invite-only environments, then speaking up suddenly becomes risky. Everybody knows everybody in those rooms.
There's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but
yes.
The shopping thing is
yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals.
When you look at it that way, speaking out doesn't just put Diddy on the line, it puts the speaker on the line too. And Joe isn't the only one framing it like that. 50 Cent has been hinting at this dynamic for years, acting like he's one of the only ones willing to say anything while everyone else suddenly doesn't know or can't comment. That contrast alone says a lot. So when you watch how fast the silence spreads, it starts saying more than any public statement ever could.
Here and told y'all there was activity on the dark net. Videos were being distributed and were going to be sold for profit because the diddler needs the money. Did I not say that?
Said that.
Right here.
I was saying.
Those people who was caught at Diddy party did not know that he had 250 tape recorders in that house. That's a big house. But he had 250 tape recorders.
And if you've been paying attention to the low-level noise coming out of Hollywood lately, none of this should really shock you. For months, there's been quiet but constant talk, not always making headlines, more like background noise that never fully fades away. And one rumor keeps resurfacing in different forms. Unreleased footage, allegedly moving behind the scenes.
Escape it though, like your name, for example, was mentioned in the Diddy case.
Which was the most ridiculous thing ever.
Because you barely know
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. But again, welcome to being a celebrity. Welcome to my...
Not just random party clips, but recordings tied to explicit after-hours environments. People whisper about questionable decisions, blurred situations, and moments that could seriously damage careers, big careers, household name careers. And according to the chatter, those recordings all trace back to one place, what people keep calling Diddy's world. These weren't just nights of music and champagne, at least not the way the internet jokes about it. The way it's being discussed now sounds darker. Spaces where boundaries faded, lines blurred, and cameras were allegedly still rolling when people assumed they weren't. And here's where the story starts feeling dangerous. The claim is that some people involved didn't even know anything was being recorded at all.
To New York City
and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah, that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
I was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was.
That's why the conversation keeps shifting from scandal to control. Because if recordings exist, even if the public never sees them, the rumor alone creates pressure. It creates fear. It creates leverage. And leverage is everything in an industry built on image and reputation. That's where Joe Rogan's angle hits differently for a lot of people. It reframes the silence as self-defense. Not because certain celebrities are trying to protect Diddy, but because they might be protecting themselves from what could surface if they speak too boldly. And when you line that up with what 50 Cent, Jaguar Wright, and Gene Deal have hinted at over the years, the narrative doesn't get clearer, it gets uglier. Not confirmed, not clean, just ugly.
Yo, Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
He signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Because the logic is simple. If speaking directly, speaking under oath, or even taking a hard public stance could trigger serious blowback, then staying quiet starts looking like the safest move. That's why, when people start listing who's staying silent, the silence suddenly makes its own kind of sense. And one name that keeps circling the conversation is Stevie J. Stevie isn't just some random associate, he's tied to the core history, the bad boy DNA. He was there during the era when major decisions were made, when the inner circle wasn't just friendship, it was power, access, and business. When the pressure around Diddy started rising, Stevie didn't back away. He defended him publicly, called him family, and doubled down hard. That loyalty raised eyebrows fast, because when heat rises, most people step back just to protect their image. Stevie didn't.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on me.
Then Rodney Lil Rod Jones's lawsuit hit the timeline, and Stevie's name started popping up in online discussions even more. Claims tied to the broader narrative suggest Stevie wasn't just present, but allegedly involved behind the scenes in coordinating certain late-night situations, helping manage logistics, while Diddy stayed insulated from the noise. And alongside that, people continue whispering about alleged leaked clips and explicit behavior connected to those same gatherings. Nothing confirmed, nothing proven, but the pattern people keep pointing to makes the silence feel heavier every single time.
Bieber must speak about this, you guys. He's apparently unfollowed all of his closest Hollywood managers, even the bodyguard, in a sign that some people are saying is more evidence of the Diddy.
That part still lives firmly in rumor territory, but the reason it keeps sticking is because it lines up perfectly with the leverage theory. People are already primed to believe something deeper is going on, and that's why the question around Stevie won't go away. Is that confidence we're seeing? Or is it fear dressed up as loyalty? When silence and defense start looking the same, people start reading between the lines. Another name that keeps popping up in these conversations is Cuba Gooding Jr. ! Cuba and Diddy have been seen together for years. Events, trips, industry vacations, all the usual celebrity optics everyone's used to seeing.
Someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in
and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the death.
For a long time, none of that stood out. But things shifted the moment Lil Rod's lawsuit landed, because Cuba's name wasn't just floating in online talk anymore. It appeared directly in legal paperwork. According to the complaint, Diddy allegedly introduced Lil Rod to Cuba during a yacht trip in the Virgin Islands. Rod claims that what followed crossed serious boundaries, including unwanted contact, repeated advances, and ignored limits.
Him out so he'll feel too embarrassed to file his lawsuit against Diddy for what Will and Diddy did to him. With Jaden and Justin present, that tape.
Cuba has denied any wrongdoing and has said he was blindsided by the allegations. But the public reaction wasn't sympathy, it was suspicion. Not because people suddenly had proof, but because the atmosphere around this entire story makes everyone look sideways at anyone who stays close. And in the court of public opinion, timing is it's everything. When most people were trying to quietly distance themselves, any sign of leaning in starts looking intentional, even if it isn't. That's just how perception works when the room already feels tense and charged.
Managed to make it clear that you were not aware of Epstein activities. Did you know who he was?
Yes, I knew him. I was introduced to him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend, Flavio. He was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows.
Did you suspect what he was doing?
No. And what he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody.
Then there's Usher, and his story has become one of the most uncomfortable chapters for people to revisit. It's been publicly known for years that Usher spent time around Diddy early in his career. And when Usher has talked about that period, he's always done it carefully, choosing words that sound measured, almost guarded, like he's avoiding doors he knows can't be closed once opened. For a long time, those comments just sounded vague. Now, to a lot of people, they sound more like regret. Especially when those old interviews get stacked next to the wider allegations, and then Justin Bieber gets pulled into the conversation. Justin's name became linked to that orbit very early in his rise, and old footage keeps resurfacing where Diddy jokes about having 48 hours with him and says what happened can't be discussed. For years, people brushed those moments off as awkward industry banter, uncomfortable but not alarming.
When you have a peanut butter jelly sandwich, if it's just peanut butter, it's just peanut butter. If it's just jelly, it's jelly. When you put it together, it becomes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and the taste is undeniable.
Mm-hmm. You saying Diddy and Jay-Z is peanut butter jelly?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Today, people replay those clips differently, not because one moment proves anything on its own, but because the climate around this story has changed completely. When a wider narrative turns darker, old moments start feeling heavier, even if reality is more complicated than the internet wants it to be. Then people look at Justin's later struggles, public burnout, isolation, stepping away from certain circles, emotional comments about betrayal, and they start connecting dots, whether those dots truly belong together or not. Even his public support for protecting younger artists and moments where he's shown respect towards artists like Billie Eilish get reframed as someone who understands pressure and knows how the industry can chew people up. On top of that, voices like Candace Owens have openly questioned what really happened behind closed doors in those circles, suggesting that clean public images don't always match private realities. And Jaguar Wright goes even further, accusing certain people of knowing exactly what was happening and choosing silence anyway. So when legal pressure rises and major names suddenly go hush-hush, a lot of viewers don't read that silence as neutrality. They read it as fear. And once that interpretation takes hold, every quiet move starts feeling loaded. Every pause starts feeling intentional, not accidental. One name that keeps getting dragged into these conversations is Bryce Y. Gray. Fans remember him as a breakout star from Empire, someone who looked like he was next up, but his fall was sudden, messy, and brutal. Arrests, public spirals, career collapse, all playing out in real time online. And now, people use his story like a warning label. Because in these discussions, names like Terrence Howard and Jaguar Wright keep getting referenced for implying that certain young stars get pulled into circles they're not prepared for. Circles that promise opportunity, then tighten control, and quietly push you aside the moment you stop being profitable. Unlike, Bryce has spoken like someone who feels sabotaged, psychologically targeted, and shut out. Whether every detail is true or not, the way people fold his story into this Diddy-centered narrative shows what the public believes now. That power in entertainment can break people quietly, and the damage doesn't always show up until years later. Now, let's talk about Naomi Campbell, because her name keeps surfacing whenever people map out elite circles, private guest lists, and how access really works at the top. When people start tracing overlap, the same social lanes appear again and again, the same high-level events, the same familiar faces, year after year, moving in the same orbit. Online, that kind of proximity gets treated like breadcrumbs. People start stitching narratives together, whether the pieces truly belong or not. That's why her name sometimes gets pulled into broader industry power debates, especially when past scandals like Epstein's get used as shorthand for influence, introductions, and silence inside protected circles. Naomi has pushed back hard against how these narratives get framed, but the conversation keeps looping back because the optics are difficult to ignore. Add in long-running rumors about her and Diddy being close in earlier eras, plus public moments showing their circles intersecting even now, and people keep asking questions. Then there's Jay-Z. For years, Jay and Diddy moved like parallel moguls. Same parties, same rooms, same power lanes. Jaguar Wright has claimed they were inseparable until Diddy started catching serious legal pressure. That's when Jay allegedly went quiet and created distance fast. Whether that was strategy or fear, people noticed immediately. Because in the court of public opinion, if Diddy ever decides to talk, fans believe Jay's name won't stay out of the conversation forever. And finally, Meek Mill. The rumors around Meek have been relentless. Claims that he was one of Diddy's favorites have circulated for years. Meek has denied it loudly, repeatedly, and aggressively, but the chatter never fully disappeared. At one point, Lil Rod hinted at a Philly rapper who once dated Nicki Minaj, and the internet didn't exactly struggle to guess who people were implying. Meek's reactions online only intensified things. Emotional rants, statements about being a real king from the trenches, blaming bots and fake accounts, and threatening people who kept repeating the rumors. Then, DJ Academics got pulled into the discussion as one of the loudest voices amplifying the speculation, making it feel even bigger. Clips kept resurfacing of Meek around Diddy, looking extremely comfortable for someone insisting there was nothing there. And of course, the internet treated every clip like evidence, every moment like proof, whether it was or not. There are even alleged audio leaks people claim carry intimate energy between Meek and Diddy. Unverified, yes. But allegations don't always need confirmation to do damage. Sometimes the rumor alone is enough to create control. And that's the point that keeps snapping this whole story back into place. What if the silence isn't because they support Diddy? What if it's because speaking could destroy them? What if the leverage isn't public at all, but private, sitting somewhere, waiting to be used? If recordings exist, or even if people believe they exist, the silence stops looking mysterious. It starts looking logical. So now the question gets sharp. Who's staying silent to protect themselves? Who's staying silent because they're trapped by the same system? Who's a victim? Who's complicit? And who might be both? And if Diddy ever stops playing defense and starts playing offense, if he ever decides to talk, whose legacy collapses first? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Because if this story keeps moving the way it's moving, the next name to trend might not be who you expect.